Good day, dear students. I hope that you are well wherever you are right now while reading, watching, and listening to this recorded lesson on global perspective in psychology. So, this is a very new subject under the Bachelor of Science in Psychology program of College of Arts and Sciences in Ifugao State University. So, expect that we are exploring valid and reliable references for this subject to be fruitful, and of course, I encourage you to help in the two-way process of teaching and learning so that a more efficient, effective in inside the classroom, be it virtual or face to face, and of course in real life will be manifested or realized at the end of our SEM. Okay, so by the way, I am Marlene Dibuyukan, your instructor in social psychology from the first semester of the school year, and of course now will be your instructor in this new subject. So welcome, sit back, relax, and enjoy. So what is this all about? This course deals with the relevance of psychology in current global perspectives. It tackles the development and updates of the profession in various parts of the world. It also includes the competencies of psychology graduates to be considered globally competitive. Most importantly, it tackles globally challenging issues vis-a-vis the indispensable roles and the researches of psychologists. So here are the general course outcomes. At the end of course, May or June, you'll be able to articulate international or global perspective in psychology from other concepts which are interchangeably used together with the nature, value, goals, and future of the aforementioned field. Next, you'll be able to discuss the global perspective of psychology according to the United Nations, World Health Organization, American Psychological Association, among others. Third, you'll be able to explain the competency framework for a globally competitive psychology practice, differentiate the practice and development of psychology in various parts of the world. So, we'll be visiting some countries, not just the Philippines, for this subject. And of course, you'll be able to analyze challenges and issues addressed per thematic area in the field of psychology through local and international researches. Sixth, you'll be able to enumerate the relevance of several fields in psychology towards the changing face of the field in the global arena. And last but not the least, you'll be able to recognize the importance of global competitiveness of psychology graduate in personal, professional, and communal aspects of your lives. So, here are the five lessons that we'll be tackling for this SEM. First would be Introduction to Global Perspectives in Psychology. Second, Competency Framework for Globally Competitive Psychology Practice. Third, Psychology Around the World. So these first three lessons will be tackled for the midterms, and this will also be consisting your midterm exams. Next, these last two lessons under 4 and 5, global challenges and global researches, would be consisting your final exams and of course the final term for this SEM. So let's proceed to the first lesson. What is global perspective in psychology all about? So let us discuss the definition, nature, value, and goal of global perspective in psychology. Enumerate the relevant official declarations regarding this, and of course, identify the relevance of this subject or of this concept to the professional organizations in the Philippines. So, what is this all about, by the way? Global or international psychology can be defined in terms of its mission and the domain of scientific knowledge and professional practice that it subsumes. When we say mission, the very aim of global psychology is to propagate, enhance, and of course promote the collaboration and communication amongst psychologists and psychology practitioners all over the world so that they'll be able to help in alleviating or in the effective intervention and prevention of challenges with global impact. The very end goal of this helping profession is for social responsibility because we are called as helping professionals. Therefore, that will be our aim. So, international psychology will unite various nations towards proper intervention and assistance to humanity. So, here are the other terms interchangeably used to global psychology. First is the cross cultural psychology. This is the study of culture's effects on human functioning. It is a feature of global psychology, but it is not global psychology per se. Okay, we'll tackle cultures, researches on cultures because we'll be studying psychology updates and developments in other countries. Next, ethnic studies. This is investigating ethnic minority issues and applying psychological knowledge and techniques. So, this is also a part. Indigenous psychology, behavioral science, and practice rooted in the realities of a particular society or culture. So these are parts of the global psychology. And of course, we also have environmental psychology, which is an applied field under social psych. So this studies the inappropriate or appropriateness of an environment towards the effective and efficient functioning of a worker or of a person. So let's proceed in tackling the nature, value, goals, and future of global perspective in psychology. So, upon reading several references in preparation for this subject, I have discovered that global psychology emerged due to the following. First, dissatisfaction with Western psychology, because we know for a fact that psychology emanated from the European and, of course, American countries. Second, concerns with global significance, which could not just be addressed through Western psychology, because when we say global, we have to consider other contexts, especially the local context from non Western countries. So let's break it down. For the dissatisfaction with Western psychology, it says here that it is often decontextualized, thus, failure to appreciate the significance of the domains in which functioning occurs is manifested. So, here, when we say it is often decontextualized, we are often using references from the Western psychology, therefore, we apply the the ideas, the thoughts, the solutions, the preventions indicated therein without knowing or without considering that our context here in the non-Western countries like the Asia, the Africa is not similar to the Western culture. So yan yung sinasabi natin na decontextualize. Thus, failure to appreciate the significance of the domains in which functioning occurs is manifested. Okay? Next, it leans towards reductionism. When we say reductionism, we just omit what is dysfunctional within a unit, within a system, or within a person. So, thus, complete and meaningful view of psychological phenomenon is sacrificed. So, kung ikaw ang isang psychology practitioner at kung ang thought mo or end goal mo ay maalis ang nagpapasira sa isang personality ng isang tao, then that is called reductionism, which is in fact a part of Western psychology. But then, if we go to the non-Western countries, we are more into completeness, holistic, and meaningful intervention. Therefore, we'll consider everything that involves that person. Kumbaga, magta-triangulate tayo, hindi tayo magre-reduce. Okay? We'll maintain the whole person himself. So, yan po ang second na thought with regard to the dissatisfaction with Western psychology. Third, it can be hegemonic and oppressive. When we say hegemonic, it is so much famous, so much powerful that it already becomes the sole basis or sole influencer in the global arena. Hindi naman po papayag ang non-Western countries dyan dahil meron silang ipinaglalaban na collectivist view. So, when we recall what we have learned under the subject understanding the self, 'di ba merong perspective on the self of Western versus Eastern countries. Okay? Sa Eastern, we view in a collective manner yung self. Okay? Therefore, with harmony, we are in harmony with our environment, with our family, with our relatives na nakikita natin sa culture ng Eastern countries and especially here sa atin sa Philippines and locally here in Ifugao. Pag sinabi naman natin na Western view of the self, medyo individualistic sila. Okay, yung personal welfare ang kanilang priority. So, these views affect this premise, okay, this concept, thus increasing the risk of ethnocentric science and practice. Okay, pag hegemonic kasi ang Western psychology ay, yan nga, sila lang yung sole influencer. Pag ihahalin tulad naman natin ito sa global market ay hindi naman pwedeng iisa lang ang market natin. Na isa lang ang negosyante. Walang kumbagang healthy competition. Sa point naman ng psychology ay dapat meron ding mga iba na mga bases ng data, bases ng intervention, hindi lang Western psychology. Okay, para hindi naman parang mag-rebelde ang mga non-Western countries at yung sa kanila din lang ang kanilang i-consider. Okay? So, sana naintindihan natin yung 3 items na iyan with regard to the dissatisfaction with Western psychology. Okay? Thus, to address the aforementioned reasons, international and global psychology affirms the necessity of constructing a meaningful understanding and applications based on the basic view of human functioning. Okay? The basic view of human functioning is that everyone has a potential to be better. Every person is good, innately good. Therefore, yun yung ipapalabas sa ating intervention. Okay? No reductionism, no hegemonism, and the like. It is sensitive, knowledgeable, and skilled in terms of psychological conceptualizations, methods of acquiring knowledge, and strategies for change. So, yan. Para ma-address daw iyon. And syempre, para ma-address ginagawa na ngayon at tinatakal na natin ngayon ang global perspective in psychology. So let's proceed with the second reason in the emergence of global psychology. Second, concerns with global significance. Nakita ng mga non-Western countries na ang daming challenges with global significance na hindi lang dapat ma-address base sa mga references and base sa mga researches ng Western psychology. Okay? So, here are the 5 as of the book, as of the time when the book was written, the Handbook of International Psychology. Ito yung kanilang 5 na globally challenging concerns na nailista: intergroup conflict, societal transformation in national development, natural environment, physical and mental health, disempowered groups. So, isa-isahin natin ito. So, under the intergroup conflict, what is this all about? This is the systemic violence. Systemic, it could occur within the family, the community, the society, the larger nation, okay, or in the global arena. So, what is the challenge to psychology? The challenge is that to transform systems of violence into culture of peace, foster individual and collective well-being. So what can global psychology do with regard to intergroup conflict? Adopt a multidisciplinary perspective, generate solutions based on local strengths and resources. Okay, kung mapapansin natin, sa iba't ibang global challenges na nami-meet kung saan merong stake ang psychology at challenge, meron ding magiging response ang global psychology. Kaya dito natin makikita na importante na magkaroon ng global psychology talaga. Next issue is the social transformation. What is this all about? It's a massive and complex phenomenon that has cultural, economic, familial, institutional, personal, and religious dimensions. So, an example of which is interconnected din siya sa violence. Yung mga underdeveloped countries invaded a long time ago from by bigger countries, and now they are developing dahil ang naging challenge sa kanila ay yung mga nakaraan na naranasan nila na invasion, na oppression, and the like. So, what is the challenge for psychology? To consult with government and non-government organizations on ways to strengthen public institutions and political progress. So, what can global psychology do with regard to social transformation and national development? GPP endorses multi-dimensional, culturally sensitive framework as intervention in macro-social change. So, pag sinabi nating multi-dimensional, it considers all aspects that could affect and could also help social transformation and national development. Okay, kaya kung mapapansin natin ay psychologists are not just in the educational setting, they are also in the industries, the government, because they have an important role toward social transformation and national development. And this is universal. It does not just happen to the well-developed or first world countries. Next issue is the natural environment. Okay? We are into globalization, and did you know that the natural environment is already affected? And of course, the adverse changes in our environment also affect our behavior, our future. So, the localized changes that may have widespread impact, okay, yun ang sinasabi dito na natural environment. What is the challenge for psychology? For environmental problems are social behavioral, as I've said a while ago. Therefore, psychology has an important stake. Okay? Their magnitude and severity may threaten human welfare, and human welfare, or the welfare of the humanity, of course, is our primordial consideration in psychology as helping professionals. So, what can global psychology do here? The progress will require integrating psychological concepts of environmental action and sociological concepts of mobilization. The next issue with global significance is the physical and mental health. Okay, what is this all about? Physical and psychological toll, just like the child mortality, limited access to healthcare, education, social isolation, trauma, and even the disaster. So, what is the challenge for psychology? Remediation and prevention are possible therapeutic goals when social justice, equality, and advocacy are included in the treatment. So, let us review what are the perspectives in psychology with regard to intervention in counseling, clinical, educational setting. Do we Are we open to integrate social justice, equality, and advocacy in those treatments or interventions that we have? Yun yung challenge. Na kasi kung isasali daw natin, mas magiging effective ang intervention. Next, what can global psychology do with this? It is closely tied to the study and treatment of physical and mental illness. Okay? So, hindi pa rin nawawala sa global psychology yung pinaka-heart ng psychology, which is, of course, for treatment. Okay, psychological treatment. Next, here we are for the last global challenge with psychological significance, the disempowered groups. What is this all about? We could see universally across the globe that there are lots of women who are abused, children that suffer, minority groups which are still unheard. Okay? So, what is the challenge for psychology? Integration of holistic interventions for children, women, and victims of war, among others. So, what can global psychology do with this? It has designed ecological programs to heal and empower these empowered groups. So, we'll be tackling that specifically, and we'll expound on that as we go through our discussions for this subject. Okay, so come again. We have two reasons why the emergence of global psychology happened. Okay, the dissatisfaction with the Western psychology and the top 5 globally challenging issues with psychological significance. Okay, so let's proceed to the goals of the Global perspective in psychology. So from the emergence of this GPP, it has also goals. First is to promote international understanding and goodwill among people with similar interests from different national and cultural backgrounds. Isn't it that we have a rainbow, and the rainbow is formed because of the various colors? Okay, the Roy G. Biv. Just imagine if we will call it a rainbow, but then it is just colored gray. Okay, it is parallel and similar with the global perspectives in psychology that this practice of psychology, the practice of this very essential profession, will only be more effective, more efficient, and more helpful in the global arena if psychologists around the world would communicate and collaborate. Okay? And of course, if psychologists around the world will be heard. Okay. Next is promote communication and collaboration among psychologists, as I've said a while ago, worldwide in the areas of teaching, research, practice, and public service. So kung mapapansin natin, hindi po nawawala ang research dito, hindi din po nawawala ang public service kasi anhin natin yung mga theoretical foundations na meron sa atin kung hindi natin i-apply, okay, in assisting others, the nation, and the like. Next is psychological research through universalist perspective to address challenges with global significance. When we say universalist kasi, we think of the competencies and the performance of the psychology practitioners and titingnan din natin kung ano bang naging effect ng competencies and performance ng mga taong ito towards national development, towards international welfare. So, yun po yung goal ng global perspectives in psychology. So, what is the bright future for this subject, for this concept? First, the benefits of a more unified international psychology include a stronger voice, pooled resources, and greater efficiency in carrying out projects that address various global problems. Next, curricula in terms of educational setting that are relevant to the preparation of competent international psychologists are being developed. Kaya isa sa mga resulta ng pagde-develop nito ay meron na, mandated na sa ating university na magkaroon ng global perspective in any subject. Okay? So, the third one is the future of international or global psychology will surely include greater unity among scientists and practitioners worldwide and more specialized didactic and applied preparations. Okay? So, maganda ang future ng global perspectives in psychology at maganda na hindi lang sense of competition ang meron between PAP, between APA and the other organizations, but then the sense of cooperation and collaboration. And now, the bigger challenge for psychology is that to be more effective, the global psychology, to advance, must continue to demonstrate its relevance. It must show why its science and practice merit financial and public support. It also requires renewed commitment to the value of social responsibility in teaching, research, practice, and public service. We know for a fact that the relevance, the essence, the importance of a profession is very important when it comes to its market. And of course, it is also important for the public support and financial support because we cannot move without finance. We cannot move without support. Okay? And of course, yung value ng social responsibility na meron sa lahat ng practitioners, yun ang pinakamahalaga. Because at the end of the day, it is not the finance, it is not the degree, it is what you do with that degree towards social enhancement, social transformation that matters. So for now, let us study the organizations who gave their statements or declarations with regard to the importance of global perspective in psychology. So let's start with the American Psychological Association. The Committee on International Relations in Psychology of the APA had a resolution entitled Promoting Global Perspectives in Psychology. And they had 13 concrete actions to support this concept and this subject. So you may proceed to reading the complete module that I have sent you, the part 1. Okay? Basta pinaka-importante is meron naging resolution at naaprubahan ito. Okay? Next is the World Health Organization, who assists organizations and all people to attain the highest possible level of health. And we know for a fact that health consists of physical and mental health. Okay, it focuses on the global mental health and its importance to all. And when we say mental health, the relevance, the role of psychologists and the practice of psychology is very important. And it made mental health recommendations relevant for psychologists and psychological well-being of people around the world. Lastly, the United Nations. Okay, in United Nations, as one of the General Assemblies, of course, has a very important role. It has led into the equal representation of psychologists around the world. Noon kasi is parang 2:1 na yung mga Western countries, mas marami ang puntos dahil mas marami ang kanilang representatives. Ngayon ay equal representation na ang meron. Okay? At isa sa mga rason kung bakit nagkaroon ng Caribbean Psychology Organization under the Nassau Declaration ay dahil nga sa equal representation of psychologists around the world. And of course, it recognized the importance of global perspective in psychology in the development of sustainable development goals. So you have a reading assignment with regard to this so that you'll be able to know it. The sustainable goal, of course, the sustainable development goal from the United Nations serve as a guide to our national, international organizations and agencies and governments with regard to their thrust and priority that would help international progress. Okay? So, thank you so much. I hope that you have understood this very brief introduction and, of course, lesson 1 for the global perspectives in psychology. For further details, your questions, your clarifications, and inputs are very welcome. Per lesson, I will be attaching a link, Google link in our Google Classroom or in our group chat in Messenger so that you'll be able to throw or to indicate your important questions. And before we start another recorded lesson, an answer will be the springboard for lesson 2, okay, the succeeding lessons. So thank you so much. Remember, the global perspective in psychology is a new subject under BS Psychology program in IFSU, but of course, through your help, through the reliable resources, through the two-way teaching and learning process, we will thrive and surpass and of course, make our learning fruitful. Remember that your chosen profession, psychology, is very essential, very important here in our locality, in Ifugao, in our country, and it is very relevant globally. Okay, importante ito, maia-apply ito locally man or internationally. So be proud, work hard for it, and of course, kunin po natin ang gabay ng ating Panginoon sa pagpupursige natin dahil it is through His grace that our profession, the importance of our profession will be realized not only by the enrollees in this program but all the people in the public, okay, locally and internationally. So thank you so much. Stand by for another lesson. God bless.